6 relatives to avoid in old age, a Buddhist approach to peace after 60. Have you ever felt more alone in a room full of relatives than when you're actually by yourself? The laughter, the conversations, the family traditions, they're supposed to bring warmth. But sometimes they feel like noise, like pressure, like quiet pain masked behind forced smiles. As we grow older, something profound begins to shift. We no longer chase after approval or noise. We crave peace, deep, nourishing peace. But what if the very people we once believed were essential to our happiness are now the ones disturbing our inner calm? Buddhism teaches that suffering often arises not from the world, but from our attachments to it, from the expectations, obligations, and emotional entanglements we carry, especially with those we call family. So the real question is, can we love our family and still choose peace over pain? In this video, we'll explore 6 types of relatives you may need to distance yourself from after 60, based not on resentment, but on wisdom. Backed by Buddhist teachings, real-life stories, and emotional truths, this is a journey toward protecting your energy, honoring your growth, and finally choosing yourself, without guilt. Stay with me until the end, because the 6th type might surprise you, and it could change the way you view your relationships forever. 1. The drama queen relative, protecting your peace from emotional storms. There's a certain kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from work or age. It comes from people, the kind who turn ordinary moments into chaos, who bring with them a storm of emotions wherever they go. And often, it's someone close, someone you've known for years. Have you ever had a peaceful morning, only for a single phone call to unravel it completely? They're the ones who can take a missed message, a harmless joke, or a dinner plan gone wrong and spin it into a full-scale family crisis. They don't just feel, they amplify. And before you even realize it, you've been pulled into their whirlwind. Take Aunt Clara, for instance. She wasn't malicious, just dramatic. A small disagreement with her husband over the remote control became a family saga. She texted, she called, she posted. Suddenly, everyone had an opinion. People took sides. Silent tension filled the air at every gathering. And what started as a fleeting annoyance became an invisible weight on everyone's chest. Buddhism teaches us that all things are impermanent. Emotions, stories, even chaos. What Clara clung to so tightly was never meant to last. But her attachment to the drama created a ripple of suffering, not just for her, but for everyone around her. The Buddha once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." We may not be able to stop others from creating storms, but we can choose whether or not we walk into them. This is the essence of emotional boundaries. They are not walls to keep people out, but doors that you choose when to open. The next time someone tries to pull you into their drama, pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, is this my storm to weather? Because peace, especially after 60, is too sacred to waste on chaos that isn't yours. And remember, not every fire requires your fuel. Sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is step away. But what happens when the emotional storm isn't fueled by drama, but by money? Let's talk about the next type of relative and why their constant emergencies may be slowly eroding your peace of mind. 2. The money leech relative, when generosity becomes a trap. Sometimes the most dangerous burdens don't come with anger or noise. They come disguised as need. Have you ever opened your wallet with love, only to close it later with regret? As we enter the later chapters of life, our dreams begin to shift. We no longer long for more, We long for enough. Enough peace. Enough health. Enough security. But what happens when someone close to us sees our enough as not enough for them? That's when generosity becomes a slippery slope. Meet Uncle Jim. Charming, funny, the soul of every family party. But behind the laughter was a familiar pattern. The calls always began the same. I've hit a rough patch. Can you help me just this once? At first, it felt good to help. You felt needed, connected, generous. But once turned into again. Then, just one more time. And somewhere between all those favors, you stopped feeling helpful and started feeling used. Buddhism teaches that generosity brings joy, but it also emphasizes wisdom. The Buddha reminded us that true giving never empties the giver. It must come from a place of balance, not depletion. Think of your resources like a sacred bowl. You've spent a lifetime filling it, with effort, discipline, sacrifice. To pour endlessly into someone else's cup, especially when they never patch the holes in their own, is not compassion, it's self-neglect. And here's the deeper truth. Sometimes, saying no is the most generous thing you can do. When Jim stopped receiving money, he didn't fall apart. He adapted. He found other solutions. And perhaps for the first time, he began to grow. Helping someone doesn't always mean giving what they ask for. Sometimes, it means offering what they truly need: accountability, empowerment, or simply space to figure it out themselves. So the next time someone you love presents you with their latest emergency, pause and ask, is this an act of love or a pattern of avoidance? Am I supporting them or enabling them? You have a right to peace, to security, to say enough. Because protecting your financial well-being is not selfish. It's a spiritual act of self-respect. And when emotional debts no longer work, some will turn to guilt. Let's explore the next relative, the one who doesn't ask with words, but with emotional weight. 3. The always right relative, reclaiming the voice within. What does it cost to keep the peace? Sometimes it's not money or time, but your voice, your choices, your self-trust. There's a kind of relative who never yells, never asks for anything directly, but slowly erodes your confidence with every "you should have," and "if it were me." They don't mean to hurt you. In fact, they think they're helping. But their advice isn't guidance, it's correction. Their words don't support, they dominate. Marie knew this feeling well. Every time she shared a decision about her job, her children, even her meals, her cousin Ted would weigh in, smiling, confident, certain. "Well, if I were you," he'd begin, and the rest would follow like a sermon. At first, Marie brushed it off. Ted meant well. But over time, something subtle began to shift. She started second-guessing her instincts, rethinking her past, dimming her voice. And little by little, her inner compass, the one she'd spent decades honing, felt foggy. This is the cost of being around someone who's always right. You begin to question whether you ever are. Buddhism reminds us that wisdom doesn't always come from age or authority. It blossoms from within. The Buddha said, "With our thoughts, we make the world." If we let someone else's voice drown out our own, we are no longer living our truth, we're living theirs. Marie's turning point came during a quiet moment, alone after a family dinner. Ted had once again corrected her parenting, this time in front of others. She felt small, ashamed. But then she remembered another teaching from the Buddha. You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. That night, she made a promise to stop outsourcing her self-worth. The next time Ted gave advice, she met it with calm strength. "Thank you, but I trust the path I'm on." He was startled, even a little hurt. But over time, something shifted. He spoke less. She stood taller, and the space between them slowly filled with quiet respect. The truth is, you don't have to fight to be heard. You just have to believe in your own voice enough to use it. Not all battles are loud. Some are silent revolutions of the spirit, when you decide to trust yourself again. But what if the pressure doesn't come as advice, but as guilt? Let's talk about the relative who weaponizes love and how to protect your heart from emotional debt. For the guilt trip relative, untangling yourself from emotional debt. Have you ever said yes when every part of you wanted to say no? Not because you were afraid of conflict, but because you feared being seen as ungrateful, selfish, or worse, unloving? That's the quiet power of guilt. And some relatives, intentionally or not, have mastered it like a language. They remind you of everything they've ever done for you. "After all I've done, this is how you repay me?" They don't ask, they imply. And the weight of their disappointment lingers long after the conversation ends. Rachel knew this feeling too well. Her sister Linda had always played the martyr. She helped with errands, gave advice, babysat Rachel's kids, but everything came with an invisible string. Every favor was a transaction. Every yes became a receipt for future expectations. At first, Rachel complied. It was easier, but soon she realized she couldn't remember the last time she'd done something purely for herself. Every decision felt like walking through a guilt-ridden maze. In Buddhism, there's a profound teaching. True love is not transactional. It doesn't keep score. The Buddha warned of attachment, not just to things, but to roles, to stories, to identities like the giver, the loyal one, the one who owes. When we cling to these roles, we suffer. And when others use these roles to control us, they bind our hearts in invisible chains. But here's the liberating truth. You are not responsible for managing someone else's happiness. Rachel's awakening came one evening after another emotional plea from Linda. She paused, placed her hand on her chest, and whispered to herself, "This is not mine to carry." Then she said something she'd never said before. "I can't do that right now." Linda was shocked, disappointed, even cold. But Rachel felt free. Setting boundaries didn't mean she stopped loving her sister. It meant she started loving herself too. Saying no doesn't make you unkind. It makes you clear. It allows love to exist without control, connection without exhaustion. Because guilt is not love. And your worth is not a debt to be repaid. But what happens when the control comes dressed as care? The next type of relative may seem like they're helping, but slowly, quietly, they're rewriting your life for you. 5. The toxic caretaker relative, when help becomes a hidden cage. What if the person taking care of you is quietly taking control of you? It begins so gently. A helping hand, a thoughtful favor, a kind offer to manage the things you're too tired to face. And at first, you're grateful. Who wouldn't be? But slowly, something changes. What was once support begins to feel like supervision. What once gave you peace now feels invasive. That was Susan's story. After a health scare, her mother Carol stepped in to help. Groceries, appointments, daily check-ins. It felt like love. But then, Carol started choosing Susan's meals, calling doctors without asking, suggesting which friends she should avoid, what hobbies to quit, what clothes to wear. It wasn't malicious. It was masked as care. But Susan began to notice. Her life no longer felt like hers. In Buddhism, there's a sacred truth. You are the master of your own destiny. Even the most well-meaning love must never cross the line into possession. Because when someone begins to decide for you what you eat, who you see, how you live, something sacred begins to erode. Your autonomy, your agency, your voice. Susan's awakening came not in an argument, but in silence. She looked at a dinner plate she didn't choose, in a house she no longer felt at home in, and whispered to herself, "I miss me." It took courage. But one day she looked her mother in the eyes and said, "I love you, but I need to make my own choices again." Carol didn't understand at first. She was hurt. But Susan stood firm, with compassion, not conflict. She wasn't rejecting love. She was reclaiming her life. Because even in care, boundaries are acts of wisdom. Help, when rooted in control, becomes a form of subtle imprisonment. And no soul, especially not one seasoned by time, deserves to live in a cage, no matter how soft the lining. To honor those who care for us does not mean surrendering ourselves. True love allows freedom. It supports without smothering. It uplifts without overriding. But what if the prison isn't built by caretaking, but by comparison? Let's explore the final type of relative, the one whose perfection casts a shadow on your self-worth. 6. The perfect image relative, escaping the illusion of comparison. Have you ever walked into a family gathering and felt like your life suddenly wasn't enough? You smiled. You listened. You clapped at their stories of perfect vacations, high-achieving children, picture-perfect homes. But deep down, something inside you whispered, "Why can't my life be like that?" That's the power of comparison. It doesn't shout. It doesn't accuse. It quietly questions your worth. Emily felt that way every time she saw her cousin Clara. Clara had it all: the polished career, the smiling family portraits, the flawless life she displayed like trophies. Meanwhile, Emily's days were real, messy, honest, full of both joy and struggle. At first, she tried to keep up, tried to measure herself against Clara's success. But every conversation felt like a mirror, reflecting back everything she thought she lacked. And then one evening, sitting in her backyard, Emily watched the sun dip below the trees, its light warm, imperfect, golden. She thought about her life, the hard-earned resilience, the quiet acts of love, the laughter that came not from perfection, but from perseverance. And it hit her. Clara's life was a highlight reel. There was a full story. In Buddhism, the Buddha once said, "Do not compare yourself with others. You are unique, and your path is your own." Comparison is a trap of the ego. It blinds us to the richness of our own journey. It turns gratitude into longing, and it steals our presence from the only place happiness truly lives, right here within. Emily stopped measuring her worth by Clara's standards. She started celebrating the small wins, the authentic connections, the quiet victories no one else saw but mattered deeply to her. Because happiness isn't found in applause, it's found in alignment, in knowing who you are and loving that truth, flaws and all. So the next time someone's perfect image makes you feel like you're falling behind, pause. And remember, a polished surface often hides the cracks beneath. Your life, unfiltered, unedited, is worthy. It is sacred, and it is yours. And now, as we step back from these 6 types of draining relationships, what does it all lead to? Let's bring it together, with a reflection on what peace truly means after 60 and how you can choose it, daily, consciously, and with love. The peace you deserve after 60. There comes a time in life, not marked by a birthday, but by an awakening, when you no longer ask, "Who do I need to please?" but instead, "What brings me peace?" Turning 60 is not an ending. It's an invitation to return home to yourself, to sift through the noise of expectations, obligations, and relationships, and choose clarity, to ask, which connections bring me closer to freedom, and which ones quietly pull me back into suffering. Buddhism teaches that the deepest journey is the one inward, and to walk it fully, we must travel light. That means letting go, not of love, but of attachment. Letting go of the guilt, the drama, the expectations that no longer serve your spirit. You are not here to be drained. You are here to flourish, to rest, to be whole. Setting boundaries with certain relatives doesn't make you heartless. It makes you conscious. It means you've finally chosen to protect what's sacred inside you. Not from a place of bitterness, but from a place of love, both for yourself and for the potential of healthier relationships. Remember, your peace is not selfish. It's your birthright. And after a life spent giving, serving, enduring, it's okay to finally say, "This season of life belongs to me." So take inventory, gently, honestly, and with wisdom as your guide, begin clearing space for the relationships that truly nourish your soul. Because the real wealth of these later years isn't found in achievements or approval. It's found in stillness, and in the quiet courage to choose yourself, again and again. If this message spoke to something quiet inside you, a longing for peace, a need for permission to choose yourself, then I invite you to stay connected. This channel is a space for gentle wisdom, for soul-deep conversations, for those who seek clarity beyond the noise. So if you're ready to walk this path of inner peace with us, subscribe and join a community that values mindfulness over noise, truth over pretense, and peace over performance. If this video resonated with your journey, leave a comment below. I would love to know what part spoke to you most. Maybe it was the guilt, the comparison, the quiet erosion of boundaries. Your story matters, and your voice may be the very thing someone else needs to hear. And if there's someone in your life who could use this message, someone navigating the complex terrain of family and freedom, share this video with them. Sometimes, the right words arrive exactly when the heart is ready to receive them. Until next time, may your path be peaceful, your spirit be strong, and your heart truly yours.